if this works or not. We are back together, if you didn't notice, because you're sitting here. That's good. A couple things. You're obviously noticing things are a little different this morning. They look a little different, and there's different things. There's no hymnals in front of you. There's no Bibles in front of you. We're going to leave it that way for a little while. The scriptures will be on the screen, so you can follow along there. But we would encourage you to bring your Bibles as you come to worship moving forward, because we're not going to have those back in the pews for you for a while. Since I got here, we started doing prayer cards, and those were in the pews, and those now aren't there either. So we got you in a really good habit in the last couple months of either calling Sherry or I, or emailing the church, or messaging us if you have a prayer or you know that something's going on. And so we want to continue to do that. Go ahead and call us, message us, email us, let us know during the week as we build up to Sunday. Or if you can, catch me really quick beforehand if there's something that needs prayed about on that Sunday morning, so we can go ahead and do that. Offering looks a little bit different. If you noticed as you came in, the offering plate is right here in the middle. And so it seems like an easy way on your way in or on your way out if you just want to drop that. We don't have a designated time in the middle of worship where that's going to happen. So we leave that on you now. So on your way in or on your way out, you can do that. This week, most of you know I'm taking a class, and the class is online, and I just do it at my own leisure. I read and I write papers, and it's not a big deal, but this week is the only week where I have to be in class. So from 8:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon, I'm in an online class all day. And so if you need me, if it's an absolute emergency, go ahead and call me or text me. If you can go through Sherry, that would be even better than coming through me, unless it's an absolute emergency. If it is, I will pick up. If my phone rings and it's one of you, I'm gonna pick the phone up, okay? Because I know that I've told you it's an emergency, go ahead and call me, but don't make it an emergency this week, okay? Along with offering, on the table out here, normally when Pat does the children's time, we have the kids bring the little cans down through you and you put coins in it. We're not doing that as well, but there are the little metal buckets out there. If you want to continue to give to the camp fund, you can put out on the table as well. Allie. Allie is preparing graduation baskets. We have 4 graduates, 2 from high school and 2 from college, and she's putting together some baskets for them. And so if you have things that you would like to donate to those baskets, you're going to contact Allie or set up some way to get those things to her or get her money so that she can take care of those things. Is that right? Just so that we're, the 4 graduates are Nate Ackland, Madison Wallen, Sydney Wallen, and Marcus Hurt. So we have 4 graduates, but Allie's going to head that up. So see Allie, call Allie, something like that, and she'll take care of it. The last 2 things as we move forward. I made this video, and you probably saw it, of all of the restrictions that we're doing here for the time being. And I said in that video that as information comes to us, we will continue to evaluate that. We'll continue to see what's appropriate, and we'll make decisions. I want to clarify, and I'll do that throughout the week as well. Unless you see another video from me, regardless of what the news says, regardless of what you read online, everything is still in place until you hear me say that something has changed. Does that make sense? So if tonight you read somebody's Facebook post that something happened and now we can all just, I don't know what, I was going to think of something crazy, funny, silly to say, but whatever. We can all shave our heads and run around, whatever. Don't go shave your head until you hear me say that we're all going to shave our heads together, okay? So just to clarify, everything is still in place unless you hear that we have made some changes to change that. And the other thing is this. I was just talking to Marty, and she was talking to a friend of hers, and we've heard this already throughout the week, and we've heard it for weeks and weeks and weeks. well, this church is doing this thing, and I talked to my friend, and their church is doing this thing, and their church is doing this, and why aren't we doing this? We know. I have spent countless hours talking to pastors, looking at friends' churches, what are their restrictions, looking at their guidelines. We know. We know what the other churches are doing. You don't have to tell us. We're not comparing ourselves to the other churches. Council met. This is what we're doing for the time being. As it changes, we'll change with it. We know. We know there are other churches. This is what I told Marty too. There are other churches that are doing way less than we are. There are also churches that are doing way more than we are. Okay? So if you want to look at the spectrum, I'll talk to you about the spectrum. The church that my dad retired from, when they show up for worship this morning, there are people in their lobby taking temperatures and logging whether you've been out of the country and who you've been in contact with and taking your number and that. So there are both ends of that spectrum. We understand it. We're somewhere in the middle, and we're going to continue to move forward. Okay? Awesome. I think that's all that I have for you from an announcement standpoint. Let's get this show on the road. Can we do this? I'm going to have you stand, and then I'm going to have you sit right back down again while Marty plays the music. But let's stand for the call to worship together. Let's gather together in the presence of our God. Let's bring our songs of praise and our prayers of thanksgiving. Let us bow down and worship before the Lord, our Maker. Arise, O God, and enter your sanctuary, you and the ark of your strength. Clothe us in justice and faithfulness, and put new songs of joy and praise in our mouths. Amen and amen. You can be seated.
that everybody fits together and everybody's different. So I thought of Legos, well actually I looked up Pinterest. So mine are bigger, yours are little, but they're all Legos, and every shape and every color fit together. Just like God's world and God's children, we all fit together, we're all God's children, even grown-ups and everybody. So, strange talking. So I want you to realize that every shape you have in there, there's little round ones, and there's big ones, and there's, it doesn't matter what color, it doesn't matter, everything fits together. And everybody has a part in what you build. And that's God's children all have a part in God's world, and we all fit together. And we all work together. So can we pray? Dear Lord, please show these children that we're all God's children, we all fit together, we're all different, but we all fit. Amen.
Thanks, Pat. So if you have been following online, we started, this is the 4th week, we started a series called Distracted. And Corbin, can you go one more slide there, bud? So we have this logo that we're using, and there's a squirrel in the middle because there's a Pixar movie called Up. And in the movie, there's a dog named Doug. And Doug has a little voice box on his throat that allows him to talk in English. And so all of his thoughts come out, and Doug he's nonstop talking. Hi, my name is Doug, and I'm so happy to meet you. And even though I just met you, I'm so happy. And he just like, ba, 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 ba. And then all of a sudden in this dialogue, he just stops, and he looks sideways, and he said, squirrel! And he pauses, and then he comes back, and he just keeps talking again like nothing ever happened. And all of the dogs in the movie do that throughout the thing. They'll be having this really intense dialogue, and then they'll go, squirrel! And they'll all look off, and then they come right back to the dialogue. And it's the perfect picture of being distracted. And so the very first week we looked at Luke chapter 9, and it's Jesus on the road, and it says that his face was set toward Jerusalem. He was focused on the task at hand. And that Sunday I said to you, we will be moving toward the thing that we're focused on. We'll be moving toward the thing that we're focused on. And every Sunday throughout this series, at the end of the sermon, I've asked you this question: what is the core focus of your life? What's the core focus of your life? And then in the second week, we looked at Hebrews chapter 12. And it's the idea of running your race and staying in your lane and be focused on what's ahead. That you're not looking to the right or the left. You're not looking at the race other people are running, but you're running the race that God has for you. And that nobody that has been created or will be created can run the race that God has designed for you and you alone. And then last week, we looked simply at Jesus and the greatest command. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And we said we're going to love Jesus first. Our focus is going to be on Jesus, but then it's going to be on how we care for each other. And in particularly in this setting, in church setting, as we come back, as we open our doors, how do we take care of each other? Do we choose to trust each other? I said to you that words matter. How we communicate to each other matter. How we forgive each other. How we don't hold a grudge. What we do inside the church matters because people are watching. And if we're no better than anyone outside the church, why would they want to come inside the church? And then finally I said that we should maybe be praying for each other. Not in a generic sort of way, but intentionally praying for each other. We're not of a church of 1,000, so it's a little more doable, right? And again, I brought back to you, what is the core focus of your life? I've told you since I started here, but I reminded you in week 1 that I have ADD. I am easily distracted. I am very much like Doug, that a shiny little object off in the distance, I'm looking at it, you know. Yesterday, Trevor was going to go, he went running with Corbin, and he showed up, and he's like, I instantly saw this, this, and this. and he was just like, he was going full tilt. That is me. I'm easily distracted, okay? And sometimes that's very problematic, but it can also be an asset for me, okay? When I am focused, I can multitask, unlike most people can multitask. Okay, let me give you a quick example. We have 3 children. I do the shopping for our family. And when the boys were younger, not so much anymore, but when they were younger, I would take all 3 of them to the grocery store. And in my brain, I have a picture of where everything in the store is, because I have a catalog there, and that's how my brain works. And I have all 3 children on the cart or walking beside the cart, and I have the list of things that I need to get that Marjorie's made for me. And as we enter the store, I'm able to go, okay, I need to go this way and this way and this way, and at the same time say to our children, no, don't do that. No, I know, here's a Kleenex, and be able to multitask and do all of those things. And regularly people would come up and be like, what? How do you do this? Why would you take 3 kids? And to me, it makes total logical sense that I would do that. If I'm focused, I can multitask, unlike most people. But sometimes my focus also looks like distraction. Let me give you a different example. I can be on my phone playing a mindless game that has no point or purpose, and I am just killing time. I am absolutely 100% distracted. The flip side of that is, I can also be on my phone playing a mindless game, and at the same time, my brain is working on all of the things that I need to be doing and how I'm going to accomplish them, and making lists and coming up with sermon illustrations that I can use on a Sunday morning, okay? If you were an observer of me, they look exactly the same, but I'm doing 2 very different things, okay? Sometimes focus can look like a distraction. We're going to read this morning from Mark chapter 10, and it's another story of Jesus engaging. So Mark chapter 10, we're going to start with verse 46. If you brought a Bible, I'll give you a second to get there. Once again, we see Jesus traveling. He's on his way. And you know me well enough by now. I love that idea. I love the idea of travel and movement. I love the idea of forward progress. And so here we find Jesus yet again on the road. Mark chapter 10, starting with verse 46. Then they came to Jericho. And as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, Jesus, whoops, sorry, my laptop just went weird. Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped and said, Call him. So they called to the blind man, Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you. Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked. And the blind man said, Rabbi, I want to see. Go, said Jesus, your faith has healed you. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. There's 2 main characters here. We're going to look at both of them. And you're going to need to follow my line of thinking here a little bit, because I kind of flip-flop, and you'll see where I'm going, I hope. So the first character is Bartimaeus. And Bartimaeus is like the poster boy for being focused. He is, let's just look at like the greater setting. Jesus is leaving, and it says he's with a large crowd. If you are with a large crowd, for the most part, large crowds aren't still and quiet, are they? Even if we're quiet and we're all walking together, we're going to make some noise. And so here's Jesus with a large crowd. Clearly more than just the 12 guys of his disciples. Large crowd, big noise, and we find that Bartimaeus is blind, and he's along the roadside, and he's begging. He's begging because in this time, in this place, there are no means for him. You know, we've talked about this before. There's no safety net for him. There's no assisted living or medical care that he can get. The only means that he has to take care of himself is to begging, and he's relying on other people to take care of him. But if you're going to beg, you're not going to beg in a place where nobody comes, right? You're going to beg along a very busy street, or you're going to beg in a marketplace, you're going to beg where people actually are. Otherwise, what's the point? And so, even though Jesus is with a large crowd, where he was, where Bartimaeus was positioned, had to be where people already were. And so, even though there's noise coming with Jesus, noise was probably already there. And Bartimaeus, over all of that, yells out to Jesus, cries out to him. And he shouted down, and he cries out again. Nothing is going to dissuade him from getting Jesus' attention. He recognizes who Jesus is, and he recognizes this is my chance. And so over all of that, he continues to yell. And it doesn't say after Jesus recognizes him and he calls him, it doesn't say that anybody led him, right? It says he throws his cloak off. He throws all of the stuff that he has. He puts it all behind him, and he's just like going. Blindly going, right? I mean, literally, in this case, blindly just running toward Jesus. And his posture is really important. When he's crying out to them, he says, Lord, have mercy on me. Mercy means that you, whoever it is, mercy means that you are greater than I am. If I'm asking for your mercy, it means that you have the power, you have the control. I need you to grant me mercy. He's recognizing that Jesus is the one that can grant him mercy. And then he says, when he approaches Jesus, he calls him rabbi, he calls him teacher. Again, a position greater than I am. And to do those two things, he has to be humble. To recognize that someone is greater than you, someone has authority over you, someone is in a position of power, you also have to take a back seat. And so he humbly is focused on who Jesus is. He recognizes who Jesus is and what Jesus can do for him. He is the poster boy of being focused. And then we have Jesus. Again, he's traveling. He's in the midst of busyness. He is very intentionally, it tells us he's going. And here's all these guys, and we know from other stories that as they travel, people are regularly talking to him. He's regularly dialoguing. So my guess is, it doesn't say this, but my guess is that's happening here. They're on the road, and they're talking, and they're shuffling, and there's noise, and he's going. And if we take a quick look at it, it looks like Jesus gets distracted, right? He's going, and then he just kind of stops, and he hears this noise. But he stops, and he engages, and he interacts, and he validates, and then he heals. It falls completely in line with who Jesus is and what he was about, right? And Jesus didn't come for church people. He came for everyone else. Again and again and again and again in Jesus' ministry, he validates the marginalized. Jesus gives time and attention to the people that no one was given attention to. He loves the outcast. He heals the people who were told to be quiet because they don't have a voice, right? To be blind, to be lame, to be on the fringe of society, you were nothing. And here's a blind man crying out, and he's told to be quiet. Be quiet. You are nothing. Do you understand who this is? This is Jesus. It's like a rock star today or whatever. No, you don't get to just talk to him. That's not a thing. You don't get to talk to him. You are down here, and he's up there. And he's told to be quiet. And again, Jesus validates. He wasn't distracted. He was ultra-focused. But he was ultra-focused on the thing that he was there for. Sometimes focus looks like distraction. In the early 2000s, I was on the board of directors of an organization based out of Cincinnati, and we would build homes all summer long. We we were up to like 8 trips in the course of a summer to Juarez, Mexico, and we built homes and we built churches there. And I took numerous trips down to do that. And there was one summer particularly where we were building a home, and I literally had the dream team. I had the crew. We were building 3 homes that week, and the people that were on my crew were all veterans. They had all been there before. They knew how to do their jobs really, really well. Pat myself on the back, but we crushed it, right? Like, it's supposed to take you 4 days to build the whole house, and we were done in like 3. It was the fastest anyone's ever done it. We were just like, bro, we were crushing it. But in the midst of that, I got frustrated because 2 of our high school students who were with us on the trip just like disappeared, and we had asked them to go get something, and we were like, where did they go to? Like, we needed these supplies. We're trying to we're gonna beat the record. We're gonna go, we gotta go. And we found them in the street playing with the neighborhood kids. And my initial reaction was like, what are you doing? We told you to get our stuff for us. And then I saw the smiles. And I saw the kids just lighting up because someone was paying attention to them, and there was joy. Sometimes distraction is actually focus, if you're focused on the right things. The entire Bible, from beginning to end, it regularly brings up this idea of caring for the widow and the orphan, caring for the foreigner in your midst, the downcast and the broken. There are specific examples, and these are specific examples, but they're also representative of the greater idea, right? I think it's important that we take care of the widows and orphans, but the idea of widows and orphans and the ideas of foreigners in our midst those are the people that don't have a voice. Those are the people that are on the fringe of society. They don't have a place at the table. And are you taking care of them? God loves justice, and he loathes injustice. It's one of the running narratives from beginning to end. In Jesus' ministry, he continues the people that are around him are continually amazed by who he chooses to spend his time with. He doesn't spend his time with the church folk, with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and that's why they get so mad at him. We thought you were going to show up and pat us on the back because we're doing such a good job. And he goes, you've missed the boat the entire time. I'm gonna hang out with the tax collectors and the prostitutes and the blind and the lepers and the children, and I'm gonna say, we love the picture of Jesus with a child on his lap, and we love that idea of let the children come to me, and that's so cute. But in that context, in that time, let the children come to me was radical thinking. Children were on the fringe of society. They were property. They were just a nuisance in the way until they became adults. And so Jesus saying, let the children come to me, was radical thinking. And he validated those voices. So here we are. And we are his disciples. We are to be called after his name, right? And if we are to be about what Jesus was about, if we're to be about what the Bible's about, there's this running theme of giving a place at the table to those who don't have a voice. When we see injustice, we can stand for that, or we can stand against that. Are we the crowd that is shouting down the people on the fringe? Be quiet, you don't have a voice here. Jesus has no time for you. I've challenged you for 3 weeks, and this is the 4th week. What is the central focus of your life? And if you haven't figured out what that is yet, can I suggest to you that we begin with giving voices to those who don't have a voice? Can I suggest to you that giving a place at the table for those who don't feel that they have a place might be a starting point? That as Jesus continues to validate and care for those on the fringe, are we not about what he's about? If we're following after him, then are we not to be about what he's about? As we go to prayer today, many of you heard that Randy Hurt passed away this week, and so if you would be in prayer for Karen and Doug in this time as well, let's pray. God, I thank you for this day, a day that you have made. It's good to be back with your people, even if we're spread out and we can't shake hands and hug like we would like to do. It is good to be here. God, we want to be known as your disciples. We want to be known as your followers. And so would you get us started? Would we be in line with your thinking and your teaching, as countercultural as it might be? God, would we be seeking to give a voice for those who don't have it? Would we be looking to give a place at the table? God, show us ways that we can be engaged, that we would be known as your people. Even today, Father God, we ask this in your precious name. Amen and amen. Now receive God's benediction as we head out of here. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and give you peace. Amen. Many blessings on your week. Make sure you wash your hands.